안녕하세요. Hi. So let me start by asking you a simple question. What do you do when you are thirsty? Yes, you drink water. So I have my water bottle here. I just drank some. And these days, in much of the developed world, water is so easy to get that we barely even think about it. But a long time ago, in the past, if you wanted a steady supply of water in your community, in the place where you live, in your town, you had to do this. You had to dig a well. And digging a well isn't easy or simple. You have to first find the right place and start working. It's a slow, laborious process. And maybe for that reason, we have this old Korean saying that goes like, 우물을 파도 한 우물을 팔아. Have you heard it before? Yeah, we've all heard it in commercials and in textbooks. And in English, it would be, if you want to dig a well, dig just one. And what it means is, whatever you do, just stick to it until the very end for a long time, and that's how you will succeed. And we hear story after story of people who reach the top of a certain field by maintaining this kind of high focus, right? High level focus. And it's powerful. And some people actually dig wells that are so deep and so big that the whole world comes to drink from it and benefit from it. But let's be real. Can we all pick just one already established field and become the best in the world at it? All of us. It's not a practical goal. And how are we even supposed to know which field to go for? And from my experience, honestly, some of the best things, some of the most interesting and valuable things didn't come from digging into just one thing forever, but actually from mixing the water from this one well and the water from this other well. And by this, I'm not saying that you should try a little bit of everything, right? Maybe 2 weeks of taekwondo or 1 week of piano lessons. If you mix those, nothing will happen. You will have to stick to something at least until some water comes out of it. And this is not luck or coincidence. I think this can be a very good method that you can apply to your own life, your career, and everything. So to talk about that, let me take you back to when I was a student, like many of you here. Until I was 16 years old or so, when I was in high school, if somebody asked me what I was good at, what I enjoyed doing, what my talent was, I had nothing to say. I was a very quiet student without any visible talent. I was an okay student. I was terrible at sports, I know that. But I found my first well, which was learning English. And I started digging really deep. And I became fluent eventually after a couple of years of daily training. Did I become, the best in the world? No. But my English was fluent enough for me to learn that by training, you do improve. Okay, I was really terrible in the beginning, but I am better. So surprisingly, the main thing that I pulled out of my English learning well was not just English command, English fluency, but the fact or the confidence and knowledge that training actually works. Even if you start from zero without much talent, you can improve through training step by step almost every day. So I took that and I went to find my next well. And my next well was something that you might not have expected. So in college, one day I was walking through the campus and I saw a group of breakdancers, B-boys, doing some really cool moves. I thought it was really cool, so I wanted to learn. But remember, I wasn't an athletic student or kid. But that's me. I eventually learned it because I applied the same confidence and knowledge that I got from my English learning well, that training works. If you train, you do improve. So I applied the same approach to breakdance. And I learned the grammar of breakdancing and the verb conjugations of b-boy moves. So eventually, I got better. So in the beginning, I didn't even know how to do a simple handstand. But now, I can enjoy breakdancing whenever I want, like that. I don't want to do anything more hardcore because I don't want to be too out of breath for the rest of the session. But I wanted to continue improving. So what I did was I filmed myself dancing. And something surprising happened. My breakdancing skills did improve. I got better. I reached a decent level. But what I actually excelled at was, because I wanted to just keep the best parts from my dancing footage, I became insanely good at video editing. So I became a really fast video editor. And even now, 20, 30 something years later, I don't know anybody who edits videos faster than I do, right? So from my well of breakdancing, what I pulled out was a decent level of breakdancing, maybe an intermediate level, and some really high levels of video editing. So I took that and went on to find my third well. My third well arrived when I was in college, and in college you can't just dance every day and hope that great things will happen. So you have to take your classes, pass exams to graduate, and do your assignments and make friends. And around that time, a lot of international students were starting to come to Korea to study abroad here. And many of them started asking me, because I knew English and I was Korean, a lot of questions about Korea, Korean culture, Korean food, the Korean language. How do you eat this? How do you learn to use the chopsticks? What does it say? How do you say this in Korean in this specific situation? So I loved answering them. But the problem was, really quickly, the questions were being repeated over and over again, the same questions from different people. So I thought, okay, I'm going to write a blog and write all my answers down, and everybody will be happy. I'll be happy, my friends will be happy. But then it didn't completely solve the problem, because some of my best friends came back to me and said, well, I appreciate it, but it's all text. It's not, easy to read. So then that's when I remembered my tool that I picked up from my breakdancing well, which was video editing. So I started making some videos, sent them to my friends, and also looked for a place online where I could store them, upload them for free. And I found this website that not many people knew about back then in Korea called YouTube. So I started my videos, edited my videos and posted those videos on YouTube, and more people eventually discovered my little lessons about Korea and Korean culture. So what I'm saying here is that the power of the intersection is great. And my interests and hobbies that I put into this intersection, to this giant bucket where I mixed everything, my interests were first English and then breakdance, but what I mainly used was my video editing skills, and then my wish to explain Korea. I put everything together. First of all, I eventually became the first individual, other than other big companies, to monetize a YouTube channel. I was the first person in Korea to make money off of video views back in 2010. And the work I created using all my skills that I poured into one bucket, I created my brand, Talk to Me in Korean, which is the world's best known Korean education brand. And 17 years after I started it, we are still the biggest name in Korean education, and we have published over 40 different textbooks, made thousands of online Korean lessons, video and audio, and published dozens of ebooks. We made several mobile labs, and literally millions of people have learned to speak Korean listening to this very voice in their heads, in their rooms, in their private spaces, and in their cars. And none of this would have happened if I looked at one well and thought, okay, I didn't reach the bottom, I'm going to give up. I didn't become number one in the world, I'm going to give up. So what I want to emphasize through my talk and through my own story is that, yes, there can be some wells that you kind of poke into and you give up. I've had several wells like that. Those wells, because they were maybe 5 centimeters deep, 10 centimeters deep, only 1 meter deep, didn't give me any water. You do have to get to a certain depth. You do need the perseverance and the persistence, consistency to dig at least until some water comes out. But when you combine all those things together, some wonderful things can happen that can change your life. So to everybody who's a student wondering about what to do with their lives, and to adults who are wondering about their next career, I always ask the same questions. What are some wells that you dug before, pretty deep. And what kind of water did you pull out of that? And what well are you going to dig next? How deep do you want to go? And what will you get out of it? And how will you mix those two? Water is everywhere, and with all the technology these days, I think wells are everywhere in the world too. But the mix, the combination, is something that only you can make. Thank you. 감사합니다.